Hi. Welcome to the course of Geography of Turkey 1, Physical Geography of Turkey. In this lesson, we will explore fundamental insights into the factors of vegetation cover in Turkey. Please feel free to share your questions and insights through the eCampus platform or via email. The distribution of vegetation in Turkey is influenced by various factors, including 1. Climate. Turkey has a diverse climate due to its geographical location. The country experiences a variety of climates, including Mediterranean, Aegean, Black Sea, and continental climates. Different plant species are adapted to specific climatic conditions, influencing the types of vegetation found in each region. 2. Topography. The varied topography of Turkey, which includes mountains, plateaus, valleys, and coastal areas, plays a significant role in vegetation distribution. Altitude and slope aspect are crucial factors influencing the types of plants that can thrive in a particular area. 3. Soil types. The composition and fertility of the soil in a region determine the types of plants that can grow there. Different soil types, such as clay, loam, and sandy soils, support specific vegetation adapted to those conditions. 4. Water availability. The availability of water, whether from rainfall, rivers, or underground sources, is a critical factor influencing vegetation. Regions with higher precipitation or proximity to water bodies may support more diverse and lush vegetation. 5. Human activities. Human activities, including agriculture, urbanization, and deforestation, can significantly impact vegetation distribution. Agricultural practices and land use changes may lead to the introduction of non-native species or the loss of natural habitats. 6. Biotic interactions. Interactions among different plant species, as well as between plants and animals, can affect vegetation distribution. Competition for resources, mutualistic relationships, and the presence of herbivores all play a role in shaping plant communities. 7. Fire. In some ecosystems, the frequency and intensity of wildfires influence the types of vegetation that can thrive. Some plant species are adapted to fire and may even require it for seed germination or regeneration. 8. Biogeographic regions. Turkey is located at the crossroads of Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, resulting in a rich diversity of plant species from different biogeographic regions. The country's vegetation reflects elements from the Mediterranean, Euro-Siberian, and Irano-Turanian regions. 9. Protected areas. The presence of national parks and protected areas can influence vegetation distribution by providing habitats where plant species can flourish undisturbed. Understanding these factors is crucial for managing and conserving Turkey's diverse vegetation, considering both ecological and human-related aspects. Climate has a profound impact on vegetation, influencing the types of plants that can thrive in different regions. The key climate factors affecting vegetation include temperature, precipitation, humidity, and sunlight. Here's a detailed look at how climate affects vegetation. 1. Temperature. Growing degree days. The accumulation of heat over a certain threshold, measured in growing degree days, affects plant growth. Different plants have temperature requirements for germination, flowering, and fruiting. Temperature zones. Plants are adapted to specific temperature zones, such as tropical, subtropical, temperate, and polar. The length of the growing season is influenced by temperature. 2. Precipitation. Water availability. Adequate water is essential for plant growth. Plants in arid regions, such as deserts, have adapted to conserve water, while those in rainforests thrive in high precipitation environments. Seasonal variation. Plants may be adapted to seasonal variations in precipitation, such as deciduous trees shedding leaves during dry periods to conserve water. 3. Humidity. Evapotranspiration. Humidity affects the rate of evaporation from the soil and transpiration from plant leaves, evapotranspiration. Plants in humid environments may have different adaptations than those in arid regions. 4. Sunlight. Photoperiod. The duration of daylight, known as photoperiod, influences flowering and other developmental processes in plants. Some plants require specific day lengths to initiate flowering. Sunlight intensity. The intensity of sunlight influences the types of plants that can thrive in a particular area. Shade-tolerant plants are adapted to lower light levels in forested environments. 5. Extreme events. Frost. Frost events can damage or kill sensitive plants, influencing the distribution of vegetation at higher latitudes or elevations. Heat waves. Prolonged periods of high temperatures can stress plants, affecting their growth and survival. 6. Climate change. Shifts in zones. Ongoing climate change is causing shifts in temperature and precipitation zones, impacting the distribution of plant species. Some plants may migrate to higher latitudes or elevations in response to changing climate conditions. 7. Microclimates. Local variation. Microclimates, such as those created by bodies of water or urban areas, can influence vegetation locally. Urban heat islands, for example, may support different plant species than surrounding rural areas. Understanding the complex interactions between these climate factors is crucial for predicting how vegetation will respond to ongoing and future changes in climate conditions. It also plays a vital role in developing strategies for conservation and sustainable land management. Light. 3 principal characteristics of light affect plant growth: quantity, quality, and duration. Quantity. Light quantity refers to the intensity, or concentration, of sunlight. It varies with the seasons. The maximum amount of light is present in summer, and the minimum in winter. Up to a point, the more sunlight a plant receives, the greater its capacity for producing food via photosynthesis. You can manipulate light quantity to achieve different plant growth patterns. Increase light by surrounding plants with reflective materials, a white background or supplemental lights. Decrease it by shading plants with cheesecloth or woven shade cloths. Quality. Light quality refers to the color, wavelength, of light. Sunlight supplies the complete range of wavelengths and can be broken up by a prism into bands of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Blue and red light, which plants absorb, have the greatest effect on plant growth. Blue light is responsible primarily for vegetative, leaf, growth. Red light, when combined with blue light, encourages flowering. Plants look green to us because they reflect, rather than absorb, green light. Knowing which light source to use is important for manipulating plant growth. For example, fluorescent, cool white, light is high in the blue wavelength. It encourages leafy growth and is excellent for starting seedlings. Incandescent light is high in the red or orange range, but generally produces too much heat to be a valuable light source for plants. Fluorescent grow lights attempt to imitate sunlight with a mixture of red and blue wavelengths, but they are costly and generally no better than regular fluorescent lights. Duration. Duration, or photoperiod, refers to the amount of time a plant is exposed to light. Photoperiod controls flowering in many plants, Figure 1. Scientists used to think that the length of light period triggered flowering and other responses within plants. Thus, they describe plants as short day or long day, depending on what conditions they flower under. We now know that it is not the length of the light period, but rather the length of uninterrupted darkness, that is critical to floral development. Plants are classified into 3 categories: short day, long day, short night, or day neutral, depending on their response to the duration of light or darkness. Short day plants form flowers only when day length is less than about 12 hours. Many spring and fall flowering plants, such as chrysanthemum, poinsettia, and Christmas cactus, are in this category. In contrast, long day plants form flowers only when day length exceeds 12 hours. Most summer flowering plants, for example, Rudbeckia, California poppy, and aster, as well as many vegetables, beet, radish, lettuce, spinach, and potato, are in this category. Absolutely, the phenomenon you're describing is known as the alpine or subalpine tree line. It refers to the elevation or latitude beyond which trees become increasingly sparse and eventually cannot grow. Several factors contribute to this pattern. Temperature. With increasing elevation or latitude, temperatures tend to decrease. Trees have specific temperature requirements for growth, and extreme cold conditions at higher altitudes or latitudes can limit their ability to survive. Growing season. Higher elevations and polar regions often experience shorter growing seasons. The time available for plants to complete their life cycles, including seed germination, growth, and reproduction, becomes limited. Soil conditions. The soils at higher elevations or latitudes may lack the nutrients or have different physical properties compared to lower elevations. Some plants are adapted to specific soil types and may struggle to thrive in unfamiliar conditions. Wind exposure. As one ascends in elevation, wind exposure tends to increase. Strong winds can have a drying effect on vegetation, increasing the challenges for plants, especially trees, to retain sufficient moisture. Snow cover. In polar regions and high mountains, snow cover can persist for a significant portion of the year. This extended snow cover limits the time available for plants to grow and photosynthesize. Adaptations of alpine plants. Some plants are adapted to harsh alpine conditions. These alpine plants are often low-growing and have special adaptations to cope with cold temperatures, wind, and a short growing season. The tree line is a dynamic boundary that can shift with changes in climate and environmental conditions. Climate change, for example, can influence the elevation of the tree line as temperatures rise, allowing certain species to migrate to higher elevations. This pattern of decreasing vegetation with increasing elevation or latitude is a striking feature of mountainous and polar landscapes, contributing to the unique biodiversity and ecological dynamics of these regions. For most of the year, the tundra biome is a cold, frozen landscape. This biome has a short growing season, followed by harsh conditions that the plants and animals in the region need special adaptations to survive. Tundra form in two distinct cold and dry regions. Arctic tundra are found on high-latitude landmasses, above the Arctic Circle, in Alaska, Canada, Russia, Greenland, Iceland, and Scandinavia, for example, or on far southern regions, like Antarctica. Alpine tundra are located at very high elevations atop mountains, where overnight temperatures fall below freezing. Tundra regions typically get less than 25 centimeters, 10 inches, of precipitation annually, which means these areas are also considered deserts. They have long, cold winters with high winds and average temperatures below freezing for 6 to 10 months of the year. On average, only 6 to 10 weeks of the year have sufficiently warm temperatures and long days for plant growth. The soil in the Arctic is largely permafrost or soil that remains frozen year-round, leaving only a thin surface layer of thawed soil in summer for plant roots to grow in. Tundra soil is also scarce in many of the nutrients that plants need to grow. These conditions lead to one of the tundra biome's most distinct features: they are largely treeless. The word tundra derives from the Finnish word tunturia, meaning barren or treeless hill. Instead, the tundra has patchy, low-to-ground vegetation consisting of small shrubs, grasses, mosses, sedges, and lichens, all of which are better adapted to withstand tundra conditions. Animals in the tundra are also adapted to extreme conditions, and they take advantage of the temporary explosion of plant and insect life in the short growing season. Tundra wildlife includes small mammals, such as Norway lemmings, Lemmus lemmus, Arctic hares, Lepus arcticus, and Arctic ground squirrels, Spermophilus pareve, and large mammals, such as caribou, Rangifer tarandus. These animals build up stores of fat to sustain and insulate them through the winter. They also have thick coats of fur for further insulation. Some save energy by hibernating during the long winter months. Others migrate to warmer climes during winter. Many birds also migrate into the tundra during the growing season to feed, mate, and nest. Atop the food chain are tundra carnivores, such as Arctic foxes, Vulpes logopus, Arctic wolves, Canis lupus, snowy owls, Bubo scandaica, and polar bears, Ursus maritimus, which move into the tundra during the summer when prey is plentiful and their usual hunting grounds on sea ice diminish. Many animals, both predator and prey, develop white fur or feathers in the winter months for camouflage in ice and snow. Tundra insects have also developed adaptations for the cold. Mosquitoes, Aedes nigripes, for example, have a chemical compound that acts as antifreeze, lowering the freezing temperature in their bodily fluids. Certainly, the availability of sufficient rainfall is a crucial factor influencing vegetation in temperate regions. Here are some key points related to the impact of rainfall on vegetation in such areas. 1. Plant growth and productivity. Adequate rainfall supports plant growth by providing the necessary water for photosynthesis, nutrient uptake, and other physiological processes. This, in turn, contributes to increased vegetation density and productivity. 2. Biodiversity. Sufficient rainfall supports diverse plant species, leading to higher biodiversity. Different plant species have varying water requirements, and a more extensive range of vegetation types can thrive in areas with abundant rainfall. 3. Forest development. In temperate regions with ample rainfall, the development of forests is often prominent. Trees, shrubs, and other woody vegetation benefit from consistent water availability, leading to the formation of lush and dense forest ecosystems. 4. Seasonal changes. The pattern of rainfall, whether it's distributed evenly throughout the year or concentrated in certain seasons, can influence the types of vegetation that thrive. Seasonal variations in rainfall contribute to deciduous trees shedding their leaves in response to changes in water availability. 5. Soil moisture. Rainfall contributes to soil moisture, which is essential for plant health. Sufficient soil moisture supports the growth of roots and helps plants withstand dry periods. This is particularly important in temperate regions with distinct seasons. 6. Human agriculture. Adequate rainfall is crucial for agricultural activities in temperate regions. Crops depend on regular and well-distributed rainfall for optimal growth. In regions with reliable rainfall, agriculture can flourish, contributing to both natural and cultivated vegetation. 7. Water sources for wildlife. Abundant rainfall ensures the availability of water sources for wildlife. This is critical for the survival of various animal species that depend on both plant resources and water. 8. Ecosystem stability. Regions with consistent and sufficient rainfall tend to have more stable ecosystems. This stability supports the interdependence of different species within the ecosystem, creating a balanced and resilient environment. Overall, the relationship between rainfall and vegetation in temperate regions highlights the intricate balance of environmental factors that shape ecosystems. The availability of water plays a central role in determining the nature and extent of plant life in these areas. Absolutely, elevation is a significant factor influencing vegetation patterns. As one ascends in altitude, several environmental conditions change, and these variations impact the types of plants that can thrive. Here are key points regarding the impact of elevation on vegetation. 1. Temperature gradient. Elevation is associated with a decrease in temperature. For every increase in elevation, there is a corresponding drop in temperature. This temperature gradient affects the types of plants that can survive at higher altitudes, favoring cold-adapted species. 2. Vegetation zones. Different elevational zones are often characterized by distinct vegetation types. These zones include the montane, subalpine, and alpine zones. Each zone has specific plant adaptations to cope with the temperature and climate conditions prevalent at that elevation. 3. Tree line. The tree line, or timberline, is the elevation at which trees cease to grow due to harsh environmental conditions. As one ascends, the tree line descends, and above this point, only smaller vegetation, such as shrubs and alpine plants, can survive. 4. Adaptations to cold. At higher elevations, plants must adapt to colder temperatures, often with shorter growing seasons. Some common adaptations include compact growth forms, specialized leaf structures, and a focus on rapid flowering and seed production during the brief growing period. 5. Soil changes. Elevation influences soil properties, including nutrient content and structure. Plants at different elevations have evolved to thrive in specific soil conditions associated with their respective elevational zones. 6. Biotic interactions. Elevation affects the composition of plant communities and their interactions with other organisms. For example, certain pollinators and seed dispersers may be more prevalent at specific elevations, influencing the reproductive strategies of plants. 7. Microclimates. Elevation introduces microclimates, where localized climate conditions can differ from the broader regional climate. These microclimates impact vegetation by creating unique niches for specific plant species. 8. Human impact. Human activities, such as agriculture and urbanization, are influenced by elevation. Steeper slopes at higher elevations may limit certain land uses, while lower elevations are often more suitable for cultivation and settlement. Understanding the relationship between elevation and vegetation is crucial for ecological research, conservation efforts, and predicting the impacts of climate change. It reflects the dynamic and intricate ways in which environmental factors shape the distribution of plant life across landscapes. Certainly, the direction of slopes can have a significant impact on the distribution of rainfall and subsequently influence vegetation patterns. Here are some key points related to the relationship between slopes, wind, rainfall, and vegetation. 1. Orographic effect. Slopes facing prevailing winds are subject to the orographic effect. When moist air is forced to ascend a slope, it cools, and the water vapor condenses to form clouds and precipitation. This phenomenon results in higher rainfall on the windward side of the slope. 2. Windward and leeward slopes. The windward side of a slope, facing the prevailing wind, typically receives more rainfall, fostering lush vegetation. In contrast, the leeward side, sheltered from the wind, may experience a rain shadow effect, leading to drier conditions and different vegetation types. 3. Vegetation diversity. The increased moisture on windward slopes supports a more diverse and abundant vegetation cover. The combination of water availability and varied microclimates created by the slope can lead to the presence of different plant species, including trees, shrubs, and various understory plants. 4. Bushiness of vegetation. On slopes exposed to humid winds, the vegetation tends to be more bushy and dense. The consistent moisture supply encourages the growth of shrubs and other woody plants. This can create a more complex and layered vegetation structure compared to flatter areas. 5. Soil erosion. Steep slopes, especially those with dense vegetation, can mitigate soil erosion by slowing down water runoff. The vegetation acts as a natural barrier, reducing the impact of rainfall on the soil and preventing excessive erosion. 6. Microclimates. Slopes contribute to the creation of microclimates. The varying angles of slopes allow for different levels of sunlight exposure, temperature gradients, and air circulation. These microclimates can support a range of plant adaptations and contribute to overall biodiversity. 7. Human settlement patterns. Throughout history, human settlement patterns have often been influenced by the availability of water and fertile land on slopes. Terracing, for example, is a technique used to optimize agricultural productivity on slopes by creating flat areas for cultivation. Understanding the interplay between slopes, wind patterns, and vegetation is crucial for ecological studies, land management, and predicting how climate changes might impact specific regions. It highlights the intricate ways in which topography and climate collaborate to shape ecosystems. Absolutely, the relationship between plants and soil is fundamental to the growth and development of vegetation. Here are some key points elaborating on the importance of soil for plant life. 1. Root attachment and nutrient absorption. The roots of plants anchor them in the soil and serve as the primary organ for nutrient absorption. The root system not only provides stability but also allows plants to extract essential minerals and water from the soil. 2. Nutrient source. Soil is a reservoir of essential nutrients that plants require for their metabolic processes. These nutrients include nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and various micronutrients. Plants absorb these nutrients in the form of ions dissolved in water. 3. Water absorption. Water is a critical component for plant survival, and soil serves as the medium through which plants absorb water. The soil's ability to retain and supply water is influenced by its texture, the relative proportions of sand, silt, and clay, and structure. 4. Soil texture. Soil texture refers to the relative proportions of sand, silt, and clay in the soil. Each component influences the soil's water retention and drainage characteristics. Sandy soils, for instance, drain quickly but may not retain water well. Clayey soils, on the other hand, hold water but may have poor drainage. The ideal soil texture depends on the plant species and environmental conditions. 5. Soil structure. Soil structure describes how soil particles are organized into aggregates or clumps. The structure influences aeration, root penetration, and water movement within the soil. Different types of soil structure, such as granular, blocky, or prismatic, can impact plant growth. 6. Aeration. Adequate soil aeration is crucial for the exchange of gases, especially oxygen and carbon dioxide, between plant roots and the surrounding soil. Compacted or waterlogged soils can restrict root respiration and nutrient uptake. 7. pH and soil acidity. The pH of the soil, indicating its acidity or alkalinity, affects nutrient availability. Different plants thrive in different pH ranges. Soil amendments may be applied to adjust pH levels and create a suitable environment for specific plants. 8. Microbial activity. Soil hosts a diverse community of microorganisms that contribute to nutrient cycling and organic matter decomposition. These microorganisms form symbiotic relationships with plants, aiding in nutrient absorption and overall plant health. Understanding the characteristics of the soil and its compatibility with specific plant requirements is essential for successful agriculture, horticulture, and ecological restoration efforts. It underscores the intricate balance between soil properties and plant adaptation. The historical destruction of vegetation has been driven by various factors, often tied to human activities and societal needs. Here are some common reasons for the destruction of vegetation throughout history. 1. Wars. During wars, especially in ancient times, armies would often employ tactics like scorched earth policies, where they intentionally destroyed vegetation to deprive the enemy of resources and cover. 2. Opening agricultural fields. The expansion of agriculture has historically involved clearing land by removing vegetation to create fields for cultivation. This practice is one of the main contributors to deforestation. 3. Need for fuel. Throughout history, people have relied on wood and other plant materials as a primary source of fuel for cooking and heating. This has led to extensive clearing of forests for fuel wood. 4. Forest fires. While some forest fires are natural, human activities, such as campfires or the burning of agricultural fields, have also been significant contributors to wildfires that destroy large areas of vegetation. 5. Animal grazing. Livestock grazing has been a traditional practice, and overgrazing by domesticated animals can lead to the degradation of vegetation and soil, particularly in arid and semi-arid regions. 6. Opening forest areas for zoning and housing. As human populations grow, there is often a demand for residential and commercial development, leading to the clearing of forested areas for zoning, housing, and infrastructure. 7. Road construction. The construction of roads and highways requires clearing land, often leading to the removal of vegetation. This can fragment habitats and impact ecosystems. 8. Industrialization. The rise of industrialization has increased the demand for raw materials, leading to logging and the clearing of land for industrial purposes. Industries may also release pollutants that harm vegetation. 9. Mining. Extractive industries, such as mining, often involve clearing large areas of land. This not only removes vegetation but can also lead to habitat destruction and soil degradation. 10. Urbanization. The growth of cities and urban areas requires land for housing, infrastructure, and amenities. This expansion often involves the removal of natural vegetation. 11. Infrastructure development. Beyond roads, various infrastructure projects, such as dams, airports, and power lines, can result in the destruction of vegetation. Understanding the historical drivers of vegetation destruction is crucial for developing sustainable practices and conservation efforts aimed at mitigating the impacts on ecosystems and biodiversity. Contemporary approaches focus on balancing human needs with environmental conservation to ensure the long-term health of ecosystems. The history of Anatolia, commonly known as Asia Minor in historical sources, can be broadly divided into distinct periods: prehistory, ancient Near East encompassing the Bronze Age and early Iron Age, classical Anatolia, Hellenistic Anatolia, Byzantine Anatolia, succeeded by the gradual Seljuk/Ottoman conquest during the 13th to 14th centuries, followed by the Ottoman Anatolia spanning from the 14th to the 20th centuries, and concluding with the modern history of the Republic of Turkey. Plants can indeed serve as indicators of various environmental factors. 1. Climate and temperature. Different plant species thrive in specific climate zones. The presence of certain plants can indicate the general climate of an area. For instance, cacti are well adapted to arid regions, while ferns are often found in humid climates. 2. Soil type. Plants have specific soil requirements. The types of plants present in an area can provide information about the soil composition, whether it's sandy, clayey, or loamy. 3. Water availability. Plants adapted to specific water conditions can indicate the availability of water in an ecosystem. For example, the presence of water-loving plants like cattails may suggest the presence of wetlands. 4. Pollution levels. Some plants are sensitive to pollution. The absence or decline of certain plant species in an area might indicate high pollution levels. 5. Altitude. The types of plants present on a mountainside can be used to estimate the altitude. Different plant species are adapted to different elevations. 6. Biotic relationships. Plants often have symbiotic relationships with other organisms. Observing these relationships can provide insights into the overall health and balance of an ecosystem. 7. Succession stages. Plant species can indicate the stage of ecological succession in an area. Pioneer species might dominate in recently disturbed areas, while climax species prevail in stable ecosystems. 8. Ecosystem health. Changes in the health of an ecosystem can be reflected in its plant life. The decline of certain plant species might indicate issues like habitat degradation or the introduction of invasive species. In essence, the composition and distribution of plant species can be considered as a reflection of the complex interplay of environmental factors in a particular area. Davis was born on June 18, 1918 in Weston-super-Mare. 1. Initially he was educated at the Nash House, Burnham-on-Sea, and then continued his education at Bradfield College and later in Maiden Erlig near Reading, Berkshire. In 1937 he began training at Ingwarson's Alpine Plant Nursery in East Grinstead and became interested in botany. In 1938 he began his first botanical expedition, albeit as an amateur on his own initiative. He visited the Middle East and Turkey, but had to break off his trip in 1939 at the beginning of World War II. He was called up into the army and served until 1945. The last 2 years of his time in the army he spent time in Cairo. Immediately after he was demobbed, Davis moved to Scotland to study botany and biology at the University of Edinburgh. In 1950 he began the research project that eventually became the Flora of Turkey and the East Aegean Islands. In 1952 he received his PhD on taxonomy of Middle East flora. In the 1950s, Davis made many overseas trips, collecting plants in Anatolia, Russia and the Middle East. In 1959 he was honored with the Cuthbert Peak Award of the Royal Geographical Society for his expedition to Anatolia. Turkey's rich biodiversity can be attributed to its diverse geographical features and varied ecosystems. Several factors contribute to this biodiversity. 1. Geographical diversity. Turkey is located at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, with diverse geographical features such as mountains, plateaus, coastal areas, and plains. Each region provides a different habitat for various species. 2. Climate variability. Turkey experiences a range of climates, including Mediterranean, temperate, continental, and steppe climates. This diversity of climates supports different plant and animal life adapted to specific environmental conditions. 3. Elevation changes. The presence of high mountain ranges, such as the Taurus and Pontic mountains, contributes to a wide range of elevations. Different elevations create distinct habitats, each hosting its own set of species. 4. Biotic exchange. Turkey's location as a bridge between Europe and Asia has facilitated the exchange of species between these continents over geological time. This has led to a blending of European and Asian flora and fauna, contributing to higher biodiversity. 5. Habitat heterogeneity. The country encompasses various habitats, including forests, wetlands, steppes, and coastal areas. Each habitat supports a unique array of species adapted to the specific conditions of that environment. 6. Mediterranean biodiversity hotspot. The Mediterranean region, including parts of Turkey, is recognized as a biodiversity hotspot. This designation is due to the high level of species endemism and diversity in the region. 7. Historical and cultural factors. Traditional land use practices and agriculture in Turkey have also played a role in shaping the landscape and fostering biodiversity. The rich biodiversity in Turkey can be attributed to several factors. 1. Diverse climate types. Turkey experiences a broad range of climate types, including Mediterranean, temperate, continental, and steppe climates. This diversity in climate provides various habitats for different plant and animal species adapted to specific temperature and precipitation patterns. 2. Variety of soil types. The presence of a wide variety of soil types contributes to the diverse vegetation across the country. Different plants thrive in different soil conditions, leading to a rich tapestry of plant life. 3. Landforms and elevation changes. Turkey's varied topography, including mountains, plateaus, coastal areas, and plains, creates distinct ecosystems. The rapid changes in elevation over short distances result in different microclimates and habitats, supporting a variety of species. 4. Climate changes over geological times. Throughout geological history, climate changes have influenced the distribution of species. Turkey's location at the crossroads of Europe and Asia has exposed it to various climatic shifts, contributing to the evolution and adaptation of its flora and fauna. 5. Human influence. Human activities, including traditional land use practices, agriculture, and settlement patterns, have shaped the landscape and influenced biodiversity. Human cultivation of certain plants and the introduction of non-native species have further added to the complexity of Turkey's ecosystems. In summary, the convergence of diverse climate types, soil variations, topographical features, historical climate changes, and human influence has created a mosaic of ecosystems in Turkey, fostering a high level of biodiversity. Relict plants are species that originated in past geological eras and have survived in specific environments, often characterized by unique or ancient climatic conditions. These plants are considered living remnants from earlier periods of Earth's history. Relict species may have once had a more extensive distribution, but as environmental conditions changed, they became restricted to specific geographic areas where their preferred conditions still exist. The survival of relict plants is often tied to the persistence of particular climatic, geological, or ecological features that have endured over time. These species have adapted to specific conditions and may face challenges when introduced to different environments. Examples of relict plants might include those found in isolated mountain ranges, ancient woodlands, or regions with unique microclimates that have remained relatively stable over geological time. Studying relict plants can provide valuable insights into the historical ecology of a region and the changes it has undergone. Endemic plants are species that are native to and found only in a specific geographic region, and they are not naturally occurring anywhere else in the world. These plants have a restricted distribution, and their presence is closely tied to the unique environmental conditions of the particular area they inhabit. Endemism can occur at various spatial scales, ranging from a single locality to an entire country or continent. Several factors contribute to the development of endemic plant species. 1. Isolation. Geographic isolation, such as being on an isolated island or in a remote mountain range, can lead to the evolution of unique species adapted to the local conditions. 2. Geological history. The geological history of an area, including its past climate, topography, and land formations, can influence the evolution and distribution of endemic plants. 3. Climate. Specific climate conditions, including temperature, precipitation, and humidity, can contribute to the adaptation and survival of plants in a particular region. 4. Edaphic factors, soil characteristics, including composition and nutrient content, play a role in determining which plants can thrive in a given area. 5. Biological interactions. Interactions with other organisms, such as pollinators, seed dispersers, and competitors, can influence the distribution of endemic species. Endemic plants are often of particular interest to scientists and conservationists because they can be vulnerable to environmental changes, habitat loss, and human activities. Protecting the unique ecosystems that support endemic species is crucial for maintaining biodiversity and preserving the ecological balance of these regions. Liquid amber, commonly known as sweet gum, is indeed a genus of flowering plants, and some species within this genus may exhibit endemic characteristics in specific regions. If there are particular species of liquid amber around Coisages Lake that are unique to that area, it would be considered an example of endemic flora. Endemism often occurs in regions with distinct ecological conditions or isolated geographic features that contribute to the evolution of unique species. The presence of endemic plants highlights the ecological diversity and significance of a particular area. Preserving the habitats of endemic plants is crucial for maintaining biodiversity, and it often involves conservation efforts to protect these species and their ecosystems from threats such as habitat destruction, climate change, or invasive species. Pulley oak is unique to the lakes region, and it's not found elsewhere, then it would be considered an endemic plant for that particular area. Endemic plants are species that are native to and restricted to a specific geographic location. Tablodoki bicolor Turkey and Ensezatli Bolgelerin Ozgu endemic Bitki Turlarini Temzalit Mektadir. Eastay Tablodoki Bitkilerin Turkche Adler. 1. Bupleurum cetaceum, toothed hare's ear. Toothed hare's ear is a flower species unique to Turkey. 2. Dianthus castembelluensis, Kastamonu carnation. Kastamonu carnation is an endemic carnation species specific to the Kastamonu region. 3. Euonymus latifolius, spindle tree. Spindle tree is a shrub species usually found in forested areas. 4. Galanthus plicatus, bog snowdrop. Bog snowdrop is a snowdrop species particularly seen in various regions of Turkey, especially during winter. 5. Abies nordmanniana, Nordman fir. Nordman fir is a pine species specific to the northern regions of Turkey. 6. Astrantia maxima, mountain star. Mountain star is a decorative plant species found in mountainous regions of Turkey. 7. Bolota nigra, false nettle. False nettle is a plant species commonly found in various regions of Anatolia. 8. Campanula lyrata, vagina. Vagina is a flower species found in different geographical regions of Turkey. 9. Centaurea cadmia, Tosia button. Tosia button is a flower species naturally occurring in different regions of Turkey. 10. Digitalis lamarckii, foxglove. Foxglove is a plant species widely found in mountainous and forested areas of Turkey. 11. Heracleum platythenium, hogweed. Hogweed is a plant species typically growing along riverbanks and in moist areas. 12. Phlomis russelliana, Jerusalem sage. Jerusalem sage is a plant species possible to observe in various regions of Turkey. 13. Cicely resinosum, resinous moon carrot. Resinous moon carrot is a shrub-like plant species unique to Turkey. 14. Arum hygrophilum, nivik. Nivik is a plant species growing in damp and water-adjacent areas of Turkey. These plants represent Turkey's diverse biological richness and are considered endemic plant species. Datsa palm, Phoenix theophrastigreiter, the only natural palm species in Turkey, and its subspecies, Golkoy palm, Phoenix theophrastigreiter subsp. Golkoiana boydak. are among our rare species. Datsa and Golkoi dates have a very narrow distribution only on the Mediterranean coast and the island of Crete and constitute the only natural palm distribution in Europe. The distribution of the species was first found in the Exir Valley, Hermalbuk Karasuliman Stream and Karaali Stream in the Datsa Peninsula. Another distribution has been recorded on the Kumluka Karios coast in Finike Gulf, between Karios Harbor and Priest Pier. Kosdagi fir, Abies nordmanniana subsp. Equatroyani, is an endemic coniferous tree subspecies in Turkey. The species has a narrow distribution and its conservation status defined as an endangered by UCAN, International Union for Conservation of Nature, due to its decreasing population size. Besides the human activities unfavoring the species' viability, it also suffers from a severe competition which has overlapping distribution with Kosdagi fir, Anatolian black pine, Pinus nigra subsp. Palaziana.